Hey there, feeling good today? You ready to dive into this video with me? Join me as we unravel an emotional story about sacrifice and misunderstanding in a family. It's a tale that'll tug at your heart and make you think twice about the choices we make for those we love. Don't miss a second, let's get started. Hey, listener, you're in for a story that's all about sacrifice, pressure, and those family moments that test us. I'm Alex, 43. An EMT in New York City, where my days are a blur of sirens, stretchers, and split-second decisions. The job's intense 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer, saving lives in a city that never slows down. It's rewarding, but it leaves little room for a social life. Outside work, I'm just a guy trying to keep up with my partner, Michael, and the occasional Netflix binge. My world's high stakes. So, when I get a day off, I guard it fiercely. But sometimes, family pulls you in, and that's where this story starts. Michael's my rock, 40, a graphic designer with a knack for making life feel lighter. We've been together 8 years, balancing my chaotic schedule with his creative one. His younger sister, Emily, 29, is a rising star in marketing, always throwing big, flashy events. She's close with Michael, and by extension, me. Though my job means I'm often the guy who are SVPs maybe. When Emily planned her 30th birthday bash at a swanky Manhattan restaurant, think candlelit tables, craft cocktails, and a private roomie, wasn't surprised. She's extra like that. But I was scheduled for a brutal shift, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., hauling patients across the city. I told Michael I'd probably have to skip it. You have to come, Michael said, his eyes pleading over dinner a week before. It's her 30th. She'd be crushed if you're not there, I sighed, knowing he was right. Emily always made a point to include me, even showing up to my paramedic graduation years ago despite a packed schedule. Missing her big day felt wrong, especially since Michael was so set on us being there together. My shifts are non-negotiable, hospitals don't wait, but I saw a way out. I could swap my ambulance duty for a desk shift at the dispatch center. Still demanding, but less physically draining. It'd mean calling in favors, reshuffling the team, and risking a headache. But for Michael, I'd try. I pulled strings, leaned on a coworker who owed me one, and got reassigned to dispatch for the day. It wasn't a cakewalk coordinating ambulances, tracking emergencies, and handling radio chatter, its own kind of chase bit. It'd get me out by 4 p.m. Enough time to shower, change, and make the 7 p.m. dinner. Michael was thrilled, already planning our outfits, and I felt good, like I was showing up for him and Emily. I didn't love the idea of a fancy restaurant after a long day. Give me a burger and a beer anytime, but I figured I could handle a few hours of small talk and overpriced appetizers. The day of the party, my dispatch shift was as hectic as expected. Calls flooded in, heart attacks, car wrecks, a kid with a broken arm. I juggled radios, mapped routes, and kept the team moving, all while fighting a headache from the fluorescent lights. By 4 p.m., I was fried. My voice hoarse, but I'd made it. I texted Michael, done, heading home to change. He sent back a string of heart emojis, and I smiled, thinking maybe this wouldn't be so bad. I'd show up, toast Emily, and crash hard afterward. What I didn't expect was how that night would unravel. I thought I was doing the right thing, swapping shifts, pushing through exhaustion, all to be there for my family. But sometimes, even the best intentions get tangled in misunderstanding. Emily's party was supposed to be a celebration, a chance to connect, but it turned into something else entirely, testing my limits and forcing me to face what sacrifice really means. I got home, swapped my M's jacket for a button-down, and grabbed Michael to head to the restaurant. The place was all glitz chandeliers, velvet chairs, waiters who looked like they'd trained at a 5-star hotel. Emily was in her element, glowing in a sparkly dress, hugging everyone who walked in. Michael squeezed my hand, whispering, "Thanks for doing this." I nodded, thinking I'd earned a quiet night of clinking glasses and birthday cake. But the restaurant's buzz hit a storm brewing. one that'd catch me off guard and make me question how far I'd go to keep the peace. Listener, this is just the setup. Alex thinks he's got this night figured out, but the real test is coming. Stay with me, you won't want to miss what happens when good intentions crash into reality. The dispatch shift was a beast, worse than Alex had braced for. New York's healthcare system was stretched thin that day, understaffed crews, jammed radio channels, and a spike in emergencies across Manhattan. From 6 a.m., Alex was glued to the desk, routing ambulances, calming frantic callers, and making split-second calls on which cases took priority. A heart attack in the Bronx, a pile-up on the FDR, a kid choking in Harlem. Every decision felt like a tightrope walk. He was good at this, trained to keep his cool, but the pressure piled on, his headache throbbing under the dispatch room's harsh lights. By early afternoon, he was counting the minutes to 4 p.m., when he could bolt for Emily's party. Then came the call that derailed everything. At 2:30 p.m., a multi-vehicle crash on the Brooklyn Bridge, 6 injured. One critical hit the system like a bomb. Alex was the only one in dispatch with trauma center experience, and the scene was chaos. Conflicting reports, panicked first responders, and a ticking clock to get the critical patient to a level 1 facility. He stayed on the line, coordinating medevac, rerouting crews, and talking down a rookie ant who was losing it. The call stretched nearly 2 hours, every second a fight to save lives. When it finally wrapped, it was 4:30 p.m. 90 minutes past his shift's end. Exhausted, his throat raw, Alex grabbed his bag and ran. No time to change out of his EMS uniform. He hit traffic. Of course, Manhattan's rush hour doesn't care about birthday parties. By the time he pulled up to the swanky restaurant, it was 7:20 p.m., 20 minutes late. The place screamed money, crystal chandeliers, polished waiters, a private room buzzing with Emily's friends and family. Alex, in his wrinkled EMS jacket, hair a mess, felt like he'd crashed the wrong event. Michael spotted him first, his face lighting up, but Emily, in a glittering dress, caught his eye and smirked. "Wow, Alex, nice of you to show," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Couldn't even change for my 30th? The table Michael, Emily's parents, her husband Brian, their 8-year-old daughter Lily, and a dozen others turned to look. Alex forced a smile, sliding into a chair next to Michael. "Sorry, Em. Got held up at work. Bad crash. Couldn't leave?" He kept it vague, not wanting to sour the mood. Emily raised an eyebrow. "A crash, huh? Must have been some crash to keep you this late." Her voice was playful but sharp, and a few guests chuckled. Alex's stomach twisted. It busted his ass to be here, and this was the welcome. Before he could respond, Brian, Emily's husband, leaned in, his tone skeptical. "Come on, man, what's the real story? You're always stuck at work. Spill it. What was so important?" Lily, sitting next to Brian, looked up curiously, her fork paused. Alex's jaw tightened. It was a critical call. People were hurt. I can't just walk away. He wasn't about to detail blood and broken bones in front of a kid, or anyone, at a birthday dinner. Brian scoffed, sipping his wine. "Sure, but you knew about this party for weeks. Sounds like an excuse to me. Give us the juicy details." The table laughed again, but it felt like a jab. Emily chimed in, her voice colder now. "Seriously, Alex, you took that call knowing you had plans. Couldn't someone else handle it? It's not always about you and your job." That hit hard. Alex felt his face heat, a mix of exhaustion and anger bubbling up. "I was the only one who could handle it, Em," he said, his voice slow but firm. "It's not about me, it's about people's lives. I swapped shifts, called in favors, just to be here. I didn't choose to be late." Emily rolled her eyes. "Right, because you're the only hero in New York. We're just trying to celebrate, and you show up looking like you don't care." Michael reached for Alex's hand under the table, but the sting of her words cut deep. He pushed himself to the limit, and they thought he was slacking. The emotions he'd held back all day, stress from the crash, guilt for being late, frustration at being misunderstood. His eyes burned, and to his horror, tears spilled over. The table went quiet, Lily's wide eyes on him. I'm sorry, he choked out, standing abruptly. I need a minute. He walked out to the restaurant's patio, the cool night air hitting his face as he tried to breathe. Michael followed, his voice soft. Hey, you okay? You don't have to stay. Alex wiped his eyes, embarrassed. I tried so hard to be here, Mike, and they think I'm making excuses. Michael hugged him. I know. Let's go home. Alex nodded, too drained to argue. They left without saying goodbye, the party's laughter fading behind them. In the car, Alex felt raw, wondering if he'd failed Emily or if they'd failed to see him. Listener, this night's not over. Alex's sacrifice was real, but the misunderstanding cut deep. Stay with Meth fallouts about to reveal more than anyone expected. The drive home from Emily's birthday party was quiet, the hum of New York streets filling the space where words failed. Alex, still in his M's uniform, gripped the steering wheel, his eyes stinging from tears he'd fought to hold back. Michael sat beside him, his hand resting on Alex's knee, a silent anchor. The night had unraveled, so fast Alex's grueling shift, the desperate rush to make the party, only to be met with sarcasm and accusations. He pushed himself to the brink to show up for Emily, for Michael, but instead of understanding, he got judgment. Now, in the aftermath, the real cost of that night was coming into focus, and it left Alex questioning where duty ends and self-preservation begins. The next morning, over coffee in their cramped Brooklyn apartment, Michael broke the news. Emily and Brian are pissed, he said, his voice careful. They think you ruined the party by storming out. They're saying you owe them an apology for making it about you. Alex froze, his mug halfway to his mouth. Ruined it? I dragged myself there after a 14-hour shift. Mike, I was late because I was saving lives, not because I didn't care. His voice cracked, the hurt spilling out. They mock me in front of everyone, even Lily, and I'm the one who should apologize. Michael sighed, rubbing his temples. I know. I told them you were exhausted, that the crash call was real. But Emily's embarrassed that her big night got overshadowed. Brian's just backing her up. Alex felt like he'd been punched. He'd swapped shifts, burned favors, and powered through a brutal day, all to be there. The memory of Emily's smirk couldn't even change. And Brian's taunt, what's the real story, stung like fresh wounds. He'd cried in front of a room full of strangers, something he hadn't done since his dad's funeral. And now they were painting him as the problem. I tried, Mike, he said, his voice low. I gave everything I had to show up. I don't know what else they wanted. Michael reached for his hand. I see that. I'm proud of you for trying. They're just caught up in their own stuff. The days that followed were heavy. Emily didn't text, and Alex didn't reach out either. Michael acted as a go-between, relaying that Emily felt disrespected by Alex's dramatic exit. Brian doubled down, calling Alex selfish for not owning his lateness. Alex's first instinct was anger. How dare they judge him when they didn't know the half of it? He'd coordinated a life-or-death rescue, kept a team steady under pressure, all while knowing he had a party to get to. But beneath the anger was hurt. He'd sacrificed his energy, his peace, to be there for family, and they'd turned it into a personal slight. The unfairness of it gnawed at him, but so did a quieter question. Had he been wrong to expect understanding? Reflecting on it, Alex saw the clash for what it was, a collision between his world and theirs. His job as an EMT wasn't just a 9-to-5. It was a calling, one that demanded he put others first, even at his own expense. That Brooklyn Bridge crash wasn't something he could hand off. It required his expertise, his calm under fire. But Emily and Brian, wrapped in their celebration, saw only a guy who showed up late, disheveled, and emotional. They didn't know the weight of his day, the lives hanging in the balance. And maybe, Alex realized, they couldn't. Their lives, marketing, family, parties moved at a different rhythm with different stakes. Expecting them to grasp his reality have been asking too much. Still, their reaction cut deep. Emily's sarcasm, Brian's skepticism dismissed his effort, his sacrifice, like it was nothing. Alex wondered if he'd been naive to think family would get it. Maybe he'd overextended himself, pushing past his limits to meet their expectations. The tears at the party weren't just about their words. They were the overflow of a day, a job, a life that asked too much sometimes. He started to see that his choice to swap shifts, while well-intentioned, had cost him more than he'd bargained for, not just energy, but his sense of being seen. Michael, ever the mediator, suggested Alex apologize to smooth things over. "Not because you're wrong," he said, "but to keep the peace." Alex considered it, picturing a stiff "I'm sorry" to Emily and Brian. But the thought made his stomach turn. He wasn't sorry for his job, for saving lives, or for leaving when he'd been pushed too far. Instead, he chose a different path. He texted Emily, "I'm sorry the night didn't go as planned. I tried my best to be there, but my work got in the way. Hope we can talk soon." It wasn't groveling, but it was honest, leaving the door open. She didn't reply, and Alex let it be. He'd done what he could. The bigger lesson hit harder. Alex realized he'd been stretching himself thin, not just for Emily's party, but in life, saying yes to every shift, every favor, every expectation, until he had nothing left. His job demanded sacrifice, but so did family, and balancing them meant setting boundaries. He couldn't be everything to everyone, and he shouldn't have to. Going forward, he vowed to protect his mental health, to say no when he needed to, even if it disappointed others. His work saved lives, but his life mattered too. So, listener, thanks for sticking with me. This wasn't just about a parcheesi about what we owe others and what we owe ourselves. If you were Alex, would you have apologized to keep the peace, or held your ground? When's a time you had to choose between duty and your own limits? Share below when listening. Stay with me. There's more to learn from these messy moments,